I have put everything into this relationship. What do I have to show for it?
This is not what I signed up
I'm
for.
afraid of what will happen to the kids if we get a divorce. I'm afraid of what will happen to me if I stay in this marriage.
I'm not even sure that I believe in love anymore.
I want to stay married, but I don't even know why because it's not making me happy.
How can I feel so alone when I'm not even single?
So many people are struggling with this exact thing.
We have to normalize the struggle.
I mean, a perfect relationship, what is that? Does that even exist?
Having a metric to gauge where you are right now.
Staying in isolation, it's a death sentence.
It's almost like being buried alive.
Positive change just doesn't happen overnight. I mean, do you even want it to? Well, no, of course you want it to happen overnight.
This is how we decide to walk in the promise of life more abundantly.
Ultimately, you are the one who decides how good your relationship is.
Take the next step.
Borrow someone else's hope.
Borrow our hope.
Every relationship
always has room to grow.
Elary, this is the first of many amazing experiences and opportunities that we have to share with those who are trying to grow, especially in the area of relationships.
Yes, sir.
We met at Coaching Summit, Brendan Bouchard in Huntington Beach, California, December 2022. And from the time that we connected, wow, this has been nothing short of like mind-blowing. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank
It's
you.
mutual, totally mutual.
Awesome. So we are here and I have a rather chaotic day, but we're able to make this happen. And I'm coming to you live from my mobile office. You are live in your actual office.
Yes,
and,
exactly.
We're going to talk relationships, the state of relationships in the Western world, particularly America. I have authored a book, Marriage Assessment, 8 Keys to Relationship Health and Incalculable Wealth. And I got an opportunity to share with you a tool that I created to help people grow their relationship. Look, can we just start off by just sharing a little bit of why you're so passionate about this topic in your own practice?
Yes, absolutely. So I really kind of focus on helping moms, full-time moms specifically, moms who had a lot of other options, but believed in marriage and family so much that they opted to forego their schooling. Most of the moms that I'm working with have at least a 4-year degree. So rather than going into the workforce to put their full energy, all of their capacity, all of their talents, all of their knowledge into building families because they believe in them, whether that's believing them because it's so important as a society, believing personally that they're going to have a lot of growth through being married and through being a mother, through having that family experience. Personally, I wanted to have a family because I loved being part of a family. And I was like, this is great. I love this. This is what life is all about. This is what makes my life meaningful and rich. So I want to put all my effort into that. And to be honest, part of it was also because my mom was a working mom. And I kind of saw some of the deficits of that model, and particularly kind of comparing myself with other kids that I was in the same peer groups with who had their moms home, and I felt like they had an advantage. And so I wanted to be able to, I guess in some ways, now I love my mother, wonderful mom. I mean, let's not, obviously that's not what this is about, but in some ways to kind of heal myself, right? Heal myself through being able to be the kind of mom that I wish I had. And again, not saying that there's any deficit with my mom. So this is the kind of woman. Go ahead.
To be fair, I think that we all, no matter who and how great our parents are, we all have deficits. And so I recently shared a resource with you that we haven't even had a conversation about. And that book was about the journey that we all have towards healing and wholeness. And so we haven't even had that conversation, but we all have some baggage that we bring with us into our current experiences, and it impacts and affects us. And if we don't have the tools and the resources and the transformational relationships to grow us, we get stuck. And go ahead.
Well, yeah, I just feel like so often we kind of see our own experience and we want to make it better. Right? We see an ability to improve things. In fact, that's why we're both doing what we're doing. why we're in this space of helping people with their marriages, their relationships, their families.
Yes.
And so that's why I'm so passionate. It's because I knew that it was important, and I've dedicated my life to it. And then I got to a point in my parenting journey, in my mothering journey, and in my relationship, in my marriage, where everything just felt like it imploded.
Wow.
Like everything was kind of going along just fine,
Mhm.
right? It wasn't perfect, but
Yeah.
it was kind of par for the course, kind of what I was expecting. And then what I kind of call the perfect storm happened, and that was we moved from Minnesota to Dallas in 2019, the summer of 2019. So, and I thought that wouldn't be a big deal. We'll just move. We're all pretty outgoing. To be honest, I wasn't really thinking about the impact that it would have on my kids. I thought that it was going to be really easy because I'm an outgoing person. I'll just go there. We'll start going to church. I'll make a whole bunch of new girlfriends. I'll find a choir to sing in. Everything's going to be just fine. In fact, my life is going to be just as good as it was in Minnesota. In fact, better because there's no snow, right? Like this was my mindset going into it. But my kids were going into 7th and 8th grade. My 2 oldest children were going into 7th and 8th grade. We moved, and then COVID hit. So as far as I'm concerned, it was a perfect storm.
Perfect storm. COVID.
I was totally unprepared for adolescence and that transition, and to be honest, my kids were already transitioning into adolescence at that time, but I really downplayed it. I was kind of like, oh, this is just, a little behavioral thing. It wasn't like a clue. No, this is your life for the next 7 years. Just so you know, and it's not, it's not them, it's you, right?
Wow.
They have this thing that they have to do. They have this maturity. I'm already mature, right? So a lot of their maturity and their improvement's going to come through nature, but all of mine has to come from me.
So you had a
right?
double
And in some
whammy
ways I'm thinking,
with the parental and then, marital. And so it's just literally this perfect storm that,
right.
wow, all at one time. Just
Absolutely.
hit the fan.
And it was kind of crazy, and you don't really realize the stress that puts on your relationship. When you're having parenting issues, it puts a huge stress on your relationship, especially if the parents aren't in agreement with how to approach the problem. So it was just kind of what I call, it was like a dumpster fire for a few years. It was just like one thing after another, after another, after another. I'm not going to go into it because we don't have that kind of time. But long story short,
hours, it was for a few years. A dumpster fire that lasts a few years.
Few years, which would meet a podcast that would last for a few hours if we had to talk about and detail every single, which I can do because I'm a woman, right? I can detail every single thing that happened, what I was wearing.
Believe you. We believe you.
Yeah. That's enough. You've said enough. Yeah, absolutely. And so I had like a complete transformation. And just to kind of give you an idea what that transformation was like, I felt so hopeless. I felt like I had no influence with my family. I said, my husband, my kids, they don't listen to me. I'm trying everything that I know how to do, and it's getting me nowhere. And they're not doing what they should be doing. I felt very much like I had the vision. I know how this is supposed to be, and I know what everybody else needs to be doing in order for that vision to come to pass. But I felt like no one listened to me.
You sound like a wife and mom. But I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just me.
Well, that's the thing. My experience is not unique at all. At all. But I cannot tell you how alone I felt.
Wow.
I felt so isolated because we don't lead with this. And I'm not saying that we should. I'm not saying that we should be like, hey, how are you? My life's in the gutter. You know what I mean? I don't know that that's really where we want our society to move to. But at the same time, as we kind of constantly believe this, how are you? I'm fine. We say, I'm fine. I'm doing okay. It can be isolating because we don't feel like it's okay to actually talk about those things.
And I think isolation is the biggest epidemic that we're in the middle of right now.
Absolutely.
Whether it's individuals, single parents, married, people are married and alone, and they've there's never been more loneliness to the point that many countries added to their government a minister of loneliness because the problem is so great. Just across all cultures, across all ethnicities, religions, socioeconomic, it's an epidemic. of
Mm.
biblical proportions, where we have people like you that just feel alone. And I know that that's what prompted me to have my dumpster fire for as long as we had it.
Right.
And you don't know where to go. You have people who you trust, but you don't know what to say because
Hmm.
you well, no one really gives a training class on how to share the crappy things that are going on in your life in a way that's constructive and will lead to growth and development. So I can identify, but go ahead, keep going with your story. So you're here and your children are in the middle of this transition. COVID happens, dumpster fire, you got some marital discomfort all at one time. So what happened?
So what happened was I started getting into a little bit of personal development.
Okay.
I don't know how it happened. Tony Robbins was magically in my Facebook feed,
Yes.
right? So I did a challenge with him. I did a free challenge. Then I did a virtual event with him as
Mm-hmm.
well. And I was feeling really good about that. But at the same time, it wasn't really translating into what I wanted it to do, which was, again, just kind of having more influence with my family.
Mm-hmm.
And somehow I finally was like, okay, nobody else wants to go to therapy. I'm going to go to therapy because I need some support. Like, that's how I felt. I'm like, I feel like I'm doing this on my own.
Mm-hmm.
I need someone who's going to listen to me and help me and give me some perspective and all those kinds of things. And so I started going to therapy, and it was
To give you some hope. And there's a reason
yes.
why I have this on, because we can
Mhm.
borrow the hope of it doesn't matter where the positive thoughts come from, as long as they find their way to us in those moments, in those times, because there's always hope. The best is yet to come.
Yes.
And so I'm glad that you made the decision to go and get that help and get that help. And I literally found this acronym in a support network, and I just
Mhm.
like, yes, I'm holding on to this. It is my
Yes.
mantra
Yes.
because there's a deficit of hope in our world. And what happened once you got to therapy? Did you find hope? Was there a transformation that began to take place? Did that take a little while? What was your
Well,
story?
so let me tell you kind of what happened with the therapist was I just found myself talking a lot about my feelings.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess part of the thing that was frustrating to me about therapy, because I've been, I've dabbled in therapy several times in different contexts, was just how long it takes
Yeah.
just for the therapist to understand your context. And I'm
Mhm.
just like, I want answers now. I want something that's going to get me out of pain today.
Mhm.
And a lot of times that doesn't happen with therapy. A lot of times you come into
Mhm.
therapy and you feel worse at the end than
Mm.
you did at the beginning.
Wow.
Because
Wow.
and I'm not saying that's the
Wow.
same with all therapists. I'm definitely, and
Yeah.
therapy is a wonderful thing. Like
Yes.
I had a great experience with therapy when I was in college.
No, but
Wonderful
that's
experience.
real. That is definitely real, because I think that when we have unrealistic expectations, it is then we find ourselves unnecessarily frustrated by the
Hmm.
process, which sometimes it is a process. Sometimes it's more
Right.
like a marathon than it is a sprint. You're not going to heal a broken bone in 5 minutes. Okay, just put a band-aid on it, say hocus pocus.
Hmm.
It's
Well,
gonna
maybe
take
I
some
was just
time.
looking for some Tylenol. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I was just looking for
Mm.
something that, like, what can I do? Because that I'm so action oriented, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm normally a very hopeful person. I'm like, if there's a problem, there's a solution, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's normally how I feel. But I was feeling totally unempowered by this whole
Wow.
circumstance, and so I was with the therapist. I wasn't. I don't know, maybe a month or so, and then I was just like, this isn't. This isn't fixing the people who I think need to be fixed, right? I'm still very convinced that I was not the problem.
Mm-hmm.
And I brought up the Tony Robbins thing because somehow the Coaching Institute, which is run by Mark and Magali Pasha, somehow I started getting their marketing emails. And I'd been opening them and been looking at them. And so Mark and Magali Pasha originally ran the school for coaching when Tony Robbins decided to train coaches. So Tony has this whole business where he has coaches, and if you want Tony Robbins coaches to
Mm-hmm.
coach you, they will. So they started that program and have since they have their own school now. And so I got that, and I'm just like, you know what? That's what I need to do. I'm going to put my money there. I'm going to get the tools that I need, because obviously, if I
Mm-hmm.
was going to be a couples relationship and parenting coach, I would then
Mm-hmm.
have the tools so I can apply them to myself, and then I can help others. Because we, like when COVID first hit and we needed some counseling for our family, no one would see us.
Wow.
No one had any availability.
Wow.
And then second,
Wow.
it was difficult because when you're dealing with, let's say, a teenager who's not particularly interested in counseling, but you feel like that's the right thing for them, I'm like, I'm going to put them on a computer to do something they don't want to do, right? And during COVID, like that's what they need is one more Zoom call. Right. At the time, it was not a good solution. So I ended up going through that coaching program, and with it kind of came into a lot of kind of Eastern thought as far as like Buddhism, acceptance, all these other kinds of things. And really the key thing for me became emotional independence. So the biggest concept for me there was, I think we're very kind of used to the idea that nobody can make me angry, right? No one can make you mad, or even, no one can make you feel disrespected without your permission, right? So we're very clear on, okay, no one can make me feel a bad feeling. But the converse, when I found this out, that the converse was actually true, that no one can actually make me feel loved.
Wow. Wow.
That is what changed it all for me.
Wow. Say that one more time. Say that one more time.
So no one can make me feel loved.
Oh, you're gonna have to break that down, because
okay.
From the conventional understanding that we have from our earliest childhood, do you like me? Check the box, yes
Right.
or no. We have this idea that this person over here is going to add to my life, make me feel complete, make me feel loved. And you said that no one can make me feel loved. Walk us into your light bulb moment.
Okay, sure. It was just kind of realizing that circumstances actually don't have a direct effect on my experience.
Okay.
Right. And we know this is true because two people will be in the same room going through the same experience and have a totally different, having the same circumstance and have a totally different experience, depending on their beliefs, really, depending on what they're used to looking for and the meaning that they put on certain things. And so the thing that I always talk about, and that really made this very clear for me, is that, let's say, Danny, that all of a sudden Ed McMahon shows up at your doorstep and he's got the big check, right? He's got the, you've just won $10 million check, and he hands it to you. He doesn't also like take a syringe and poke it in your arm so that you can feel really amazing.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
Right? That capacity to feel like you won the lottery is already inside of you.
Come on in here. Come on.
I feel like we're in church. It's totally already, it's set up. It's ready. The chemicals that make you feel that are online.
Come on.
They're just waiting for the door to knock, right?
Come on.
But we're so convinced that it's actually that check, me getting that check is what makes me feel that way. The answer is no. The answer is the price that your brain has set on allowing you to feel that is getting a big check from Ed McMahon, is winning the lottery.
It's in you. It's already there.
It's already in you. It's online. It's ready to go. It's not like you're going to say, wait, come back in 2 weeks when I have the chemical capacity to feel amazing about winning the lottery. Oh my
goodness gracious. That is so good.
So we see that and you're all, okay, yeah, that's true. Yeah. And even as we start to talk about it, you're all winning the lottery. Ooh, I get a little tingly. I'm like, that would be amazing, right? That would be so fantastic. And it's kind of the same thing in our love relationships. Because we've decided in order for me to believe that you love me, you have to do X, Y, and Z. And it's only after I see X, Y, and Z do I allow myself to feel loved.
Keywords there. Do I allow myself to feel loved? And so it's this catch-22 where you're the bait and you're the rod,
Yes.
And it's just like you're waiting on them to give yourself permission to feel what you need to be in a healthy emotional state of existence. And that's no way to live.
Right.
That's no way to live.
It's totally disempowered.
Completely. It's just victim mindset.
Yes.
Yes. You cannot move from here. This woe is me until something
They
good
change.
happens. Yeah.
Yep.
Until they change,
Yep.
until they fix, until they shift. And you're like, no, we can manufacture that right now.
Mm-hmm. And as I've been developing my practice and my methodology, it has become
Mhm.
so clear to me that each one of us has, well, we've already talked about the chemical capacity to feel love, right? So we
Mhm.
can feel it. If we have felt it, we can feel it.
Yeah.
And as a side note, the only way that we increase the capacity is by feeling it,
Mm.
right? So a lot of times we're
Oh.
thinking, okay, well, I want to feel more love, so I'm going to do
Mhm.
orchestrate something outside of me, right? I need to make sure that this, and this happens.
Mhm.
When really the only thing that's going to increase your capacity is to feel it right now.
Right now.
Right. So I
Not
can feel it.
tomorrow.
Right. So I can get, to be honest, Danny, when I feel good, I get exhausted, like feeling really good after about 2 hours. Right? Do you know what I mean? It's like you're at a wedding or whatever, or it's like this greatest day and you're just exhausted by the end of it. Because it takes a lot of energy to feel that amazing. Right? My
Wow.
capacity is small. But if I actually want to feel great all the time, and I'm convinced I'm going to feel great when I win the lottery, and I'm going to feel great all the time. Not true. Because it
Wow.
can
I'm gonna
increase your
have to reflect on
capacity.
that.
Yeah, you are.
It
No, I'm just
increases your
kidding.
capacity. I am. I have homework. I have homework to do. And
Well, and the
so,
metaphor I think about it is it's kind of like if you want to get stronger,
mhm.
right? You can buy a home gym, but that's not what makes you
Mhm.
stronger. The circumstance of having the home gym isn't what makes you stronger. It's the process of building your capacity.
The
So
process and the
similarly,
practice.
yes, absolutely, the process and the practice of building
Mm.
your capacity. And it's not just a
I love
one-time
it.
thing. It's not just a one-time
Mhm.
thing. And so similarly, like when you're single, you think once I get married, I'm not going to feel alone. I'm not going to feel unloved anymore. It's the same thing of
Come
thinking
on.
if I buy the gym, then I'm going to be strong automatically.
No. Mm-mm.
But it's not.
We know
It's your
that.
process within the relationship and
That's
continually
good.
allowing yourself to feel love, allowing yourself to
So
think the thoughts that lead to love.
so you have this journey, you're on this journey of self-discovery, and you have this light bulb moment where
Mhm.
you realize that, hey, you know what, I have the capacity to do this within myself and not
Mhm.
be dependent on them. I am powerful and I'm going to give myself what it is that I need. And how did that impact your situation?
Well, it's interesting because it was not a light bulb. It wasn't a
Okay.
flipping on of the light, even though that
Okay.
moment was,
More like an
right?
onion.
When I came to that understanding, well, because I remember that was even before kind of what I think of being as my darkest days,
Uh-huh.
where I was getting to a point where no one wants to talk about this, but once a month, a woman goes through something that
Yeah.
has a deep effect on her emotions. And for me, yes, yes, and you get angry
Hmm.
and or depressed.
Yeah.
And for me, for about 6 months, literally, when that happened to me once a month, I wanted my life to end.
Mhm.
Like I was into such a pit of despair and regret that I wanted it to be over. And
Mm.
I did not see a way to get out. I
Mm.
felt like I had wasted my life. And it
Mm.
was irredeemable. That's how I
Mm.
felt. And it was because of my relationships. And the crazy thing is I would be in that pit and I would say, my thinking is causing me to feel this way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I would
And
know, even in the midst of it, I would know I don't have to feel this way, but I still wouldn't pull myself out.
mm. And I think that it goes to say that I'm sitting in a car right now, and we know that there is no such thing as an automobile that is going to run indefinitely. Eventually, you need help.
Mhm.
And when you need help, you can't perform CPR on yourself. We
Absolutely.
have to
Absolutely.
have the connections that will bring us back to those optimal states of being. And
Mhm.
without them, we're just on that downward spiral. And
Mhm.
no matter how much personal development that you have, if you don't have those resources and relationships to kind of pull you, I think there's no way around getting stuck
Mhm.
and not being able to get out of those uncomfortable and unpleasant experiences and
Right.
spaces.
Right.
So
Yeah. So I had a lot of support from friends, and my coaching training was instrumental in getting me through this. I guess that I just bring it up because we really have to understand how the brain works
mhm,
and everything that's going on chemically inside of our bodies, and how closely, and that's how we feel emotions,
mhm,
right? And kind of the things that are working for us and the things that are working against us. And it always takes time. It
yeah,
always takes time.
mhm,
So, but now I'm very happy to say that I feel like, things aren't perfect,
obviously,
but I have so much more hope.
yes,
Hope of the pain ending. I have so much
yes,
less pain because I'm able to
mhm,
see things from a different perspective. I'm able to
mhm,
understand things. And of course, and boundaries are huge. Like, and my
yeah,
understanding of boundaries is instrumental now, and
yeah.
it's instrumental in the lives of my clients as well. Trying to navigate all of this. So that was like a really long answer to your question.
No, it was great. It was great to give us some context for the amazing wisdom that you are going to be sharing, not just today, but as we build something together. And one thing that I just want to say to what you mentioned about pain, because it's inevitable. We're
Hmm.
all going to experience it. And what I have said since I started going and sharing with people is we don't have to go through it. We can grow through it.
Amen.
We
Who's preaching now?
recognize that hey, it's a lesson that's learned in the furnace of affliction.
Hmm.
But a good friend of mine said to me one day, a quote by Bruce Lee said, "The pain will leave you when it is done teaching you." And
Mm.
later I was able to just get to the understanding that, hey, it came to show me something. It came to grow me. I don't have to go through it. I can grow through it. And when we recognize that through the lens of the inevitable pain, it's going to come. We choose through our perspective what it does, whether it just immobilizes us or whether it strengthens us, because adversity causes some to break and others to break records.
Let's take a quick break to hear a word from our sponsors. Romantic relationships are not always easy. As a matter of fact, some have found it's the most difficult thing they've ever attempted to do in all of their lives. If you're wondering, is there something wrong with my partner? Or is there something wrong with me? The good news is you're probably pretty normal. Everyone struggles. Some just do a better job of hiding it. You can have success in this area and in that one, and struggle where it seems to matter most. Introducing the M Squad, couples fighting together for love that lasts forever. No longer do you have to struggle in isolation. Now you have safe space where you and your partner can grow in love. Yes, you fell in love, but if love is not growing, there's only one other alternative. Click the link or visit themsquad.com to partner with a community of couples who believe that love should last a lifetime.
Let's transition into we've had some really great discussions around the center of romantic relationships. Now, when we met, I was able to share with you bits and pieces of my story, and I share some of that in the marriage assessment book. But we're starting to see some patterns that
Hmm.
emerge around us and some trends that are happening at alarming rates. And I recently asked you, hey, let's come and just share in a live conversation what some of the things are that we're seeing, and in preparation for offering and sharing some resources that'll help people get unstuck and to have
Yes.
more fulfilling relationships. What are you seeing in terms of the patterns, in terms of the trends, in terms of the state of marriage in 2023 as we're recording this?
Yes. I was just, as I was sharing with you, I was at another event this last weekend.
Mhm,
And one of the things that we were talking about is our personal vision
mhm,
or spiritual vision, and kind of, what do you feel called to do? And for me, what really came strongly for me is that I'm called to restore faith.
Mm.
to restore faith in family,
Mm-hmm.
to restore faith in freedom,
Yeah.
and paradoxically, to restore faith in faith.
Ah. Mm.
Just
Okay.
because, I mean, with these last several years through the pandemic and everything, a lot of the things that we thought were working didn't work.
Yeah. Yeah.
It really took us into a place where, well, maybe this is all a load of garbage. Like,
Mm-hmm.
maybe none of this is true.
Mm-hmm.
Because if this was true, then XYZ. If marriage was what it was supposed to be,
Mm.
I'd never feel alone, right? I'd never
Ooh.
feel unloved.
Ooh.
If family is supposed to be the greatest thing in the world,
Mm.
it wouldn't be this hard.
It wouldn't hurt so much.
It wouldn't hurt so much.
Come
Absolutely.
on. Wow.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely. So I think that there's a lot of just, disillusionment
Mm-hmm.
with a lot of our structures, including the structure of family, including the structure of marriage. People
Mm.
really wondering, is it worth it? A lot of people wondering, again, most of the people that I talk to are, really committed to marriage and family.
Okay.
So a lot of people who have kids, a lot of moms like me, and just wondering, I'm not fulfilled, but what about my kids?
Mm.
Right? I don't want to leave him because of what it's going to do for my kids.
That's a tough one. That is absolutely tough.
Yeah.
But it's reality. It's reality. And I think that it's important to mention that conversation, that dialogue, it's happening irregardless of persons who have, and subscribe to faith or
Mhm.
no religious faith. It's just the option of being miserable
Mhm.
and staying, or for some, their only hope is in the ending of their happily ever after, so to speak.
Right.
And so you definitely can see that we have some trends that are not working in favor of family and of stable home lives and marriages. What else were you going to say?
Well, I was just also thinking
Mhm.
that it's not all bad.
Okay.
Right? There are
Talk
people
to
that you
us.
talk to and they're like,
Yes.
my relationship's great.
I love it.
And
Yes.
not in a kind of a passing,
Mm-hmm.
oh,
But
how are
it's
you?
really
Oh,
great.
we're fine. No, it's
Mm-hmm.
really good. Like it's something that brings a lot of joy and stability to my life. Now, it doesn't mean they don't
Mm-hmm.
have other problems.
Yes.
There's other problems,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so I think you can kind of take that two ways where you're like, well, what do they have that I don't have?
Mm-hmm.
And you start to think, well, maybe I'm broken and they're not, or they're just lucky,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
But at the
Yeah.
same time, I've also been talking to people who have overcome difficulty
Mm-hmm.
in marriage, who have had an unsatisfying relationship and were
Have you
willing to
ever met
put in the time. Go ahead.
Have you ever met anyone who did not have difficulty in making marriage work?
Um, what's so interesting about that is there's so much of a perspective about that,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, it has a lot to do with your expectations.
Okay, I didn't want to take you down a
Yeah.
rabbit hole. I was just kind of curious. You mentioned that, and I was like, I wonder if she has heard of someone who's like, this has been like icing on a cake, cherry on top. We have never had, any tough or difficult times. This person is an angel that fell out of the sky. And so you say it depends on your perspective.
Right. Well, and it really just, oh gosh, it's like the glass half empty, half full
Mm-hmm.
kind of
Yeah.
a thing. And this is something that we learn in Gottman's work,
Mm-hmm.
is that really successful, high ranking relationships are still, only good 80% of the time,
Mm-hmm.
right?
If
It's
that.
not, yeah, if that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just kind of your expectation. So if you're expecting to find someone who meets your every need without you ever having to say anything, and like you have this kind of storybook ending,
Yeah.
it's almost like, oh, it's the NPCs, right? My
Yeah.
kids are always talking about the NPCs. What are like non-player characters or something? They're the people in the video games that aren't actually being controlled by a human being. They're the people who are just fillers, right? They're just programmed
Mm-hmm.
in there. And really, if you're going to have that relationship, it's because you're in a relationship with an NPC, right?
Wow.
If it was going to be 100% perfect for you all the time, then you're not really married to another person.
Mhm. Yeah.
You're married to
I
someone,
would,
yeah, who doesn't have a life of their own.
mm. Because the mere fact, I think someone else put it this way: if two people are alike in every way, one of them is unnecessary.
There you go.
You know,
Yes.
you,
Yes.
you're going to have differences, and the goal is to complement as opposed to unnecessarily contradict and to end up on two different pages going two separate directions um, through seeds of division
Mm-hmm.
that are sown. But there's going to be the individuality, and that's what I love about your messaging so much. Is it embraces the power of the individual. There's so many people that I've talked to in marriages that feel disempowered,
Absolutely. Oh,
that
so
feel like
much.
there's
Yes.
nothing that they can do, like they're hopeless, they feel helpless. And you're saying we're all anything but, just by the way of how we were designed. You have
Mm-hmm.
power. I mean, I was just thinking about this. I actually was updating a section of my book, and I was talking about the civil rights movement and how the greats like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., he recognized that he didn't have to settle, that a society that didn't want to change, that had no interest in change, that was nowhere, he knew that I can't control them, I can control me.
Mm-hmm.
I can affect change in and of myself. And through understanding his personal power,
Mm-hmm.
even while he was at a deficit in comparison to this mammoth beast of a structure,
Mm-hmm.
he exercised his power, and so many others did. And we can do that same thing in our relationships and change what seems to be unchangeable,
Mm-hmm.
and begin to change how we relate to it, and then it in turn changes oftentimes how it relates to us. I don't know if that made any sense, but
No, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that it's kind of an interesting thing because I'm not sure how I want to say this, but sometimes we can kind of be unhealthily codependent.
oh yeah.
Right. This is so, and I feel unempowered when I have to
Mhm.
depend on somebody else to make me
Mhm.
feel good. Right. But at the same
Mhm.
time, to be like, to get to a point where you're like, well, it doesn't matter what you do. I can feel great no matter what. And
Yeah.
then it starts to be like you were saying, someone's unnecessary.
Mhm.
Right. But I don't think that we can go from codependence to healthy interdependence.
Mm.
I don't think you can just bridge that gap. I don't think you can jump from one place to the next.
Got to be healthy individuals
You have to be a healthy individual. And then you
in order to have
realize,
it happen.
yeah, you have to realize you're still not whole,
Mhm.
but the way that you're completed is not by giving up your own agency.
Mhm.
It's not by giving up your own strength. It is
Mhm.
by getting to a place where you can truly give and work together.
Mm.
Right. So sacrificing from a
Mhm.
place, I'm not sacrificing because this is so common in marriage, right? Or in
Mhm.
parenting too, where it's
Mhm.
like, oh, you're not doing what I want. It's because you don't feel loved enough. So I'm going to
Mhm.
start loving you more so that you'll do what I want.
Mm.
Right. There's
Oh, that
strings attached.
manipulation,
It's manipulation.
not love, because love, the contrast between manipulation and love, is love isn't interested in how you're going to react, how
Yes.
you're going to respond. Love just does,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and
Absolutely. It's a
I think,
gift. Yeah.
yes, it's a gift. It's like a Christmas gift. It's like you don't come downstairs on Christmas morning and, oh, mom, dad, thanks. How much do I owe you? What was
Right.
this? $250. That's not love.
Mm-hmm.
Love is something that also begets love. So when you have that with no strings attached, then it can prompt someone to also pour with no strings attached.
Right.
But it's not manipulation. It's not in order to get you to behave, in order to get you to respond and to react like I want you to.
Right. Or even just like to go back to the Christmas morning
Mhm.
analogy, I'm doing it so that you will smile and look at me and say, and be grateful to me.
Mm. Yeah,
Right.
because I need that approval. I need that.
Because I want you to love me. It may not be
Mhm.
like I want the $250 back.
Yes. Yeah,
Right.
yeah, yeah.
But it's that I am doing something. And if that doesn't happen, then I'm
Mhm.
disappointed.
Yeah.
right? And so for me, it kind of goes down to, we're really getting a lot into my methodology today. Sorry about this.
No, we're good.
But it's just like we have to have that source of what I call undeniable valor, right? It's my worth. I don't need to have my kids smile at me and tell me I'm a great mom to know that it's important and I'm worthwhile and I'm meaningful here on this planet, right? I don't need that because I have something that is undeniable and that I understand to the very fiber of my being. It's unchangeable. If I want to feel great, I just need to tune into that. If I'm not feeling great, it's because for some reason I changed the channel. That's on me, right? It's a truth. It's undeniable. It's always there. If I choose not to look at it, it's my own problem.
I need the visual there. You said, I changed the channel.
Yes.
I changed the channel. Only you can change the channel. It doesn't change by itself. You change the channel.
Absolutely.
And you can change it back.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Just depending on retuning, right? Refining my thoughts and my focus. So that's important. So that way I'm not giving the gift so that little Johnny is going to take care of me when I'm old, or little John's going to say, you're the best mom of the world. I love you so much, right? I'm not doing it for that. Because so I have that in line. I have my undeniable valor in place. And then I also have to know what my personal integrity is. So that way it doesn't matter. Yeah. So, because that's the thing. It's like, so I become kind of emotionally independent by having this source of love and truth and meaning and worth inside of me at all times, 24/7, 365, right? But then I have all this love. Now, what am I going to do with it? Now that I'm not taking all my time trying to get that feeling from the things and the people around me, that's what used to take, that used to be my to-do list.
Yeah.
Right? How am I going to feel good about myself today? Well, now my to-do list is gone, right? Because I already feel great. I already know all these things that I used to be chasing and trying to find. So now it's like, what is my personal expression? What is really important to me? So now that I know why I'm like how I'm here, that's my undeniable valor. And then my personal integrity, that's the why I'm here. So I'm here now that I have all this. Now I'm here to share. And what am I here to share?
I love it.
And then I know now it doesn't matter what you do because I know that I'm important. I'm worthwhile. And I know this was important to me. And that's what I did.
That's good. That's
it's
really
an entirely different life. Entirely different life.
She said entirely different life. And I can't help but to notice, over your left shoulder on the screen here, he says, hold on, I've got to overthink this. I'm taking it you've thought about this and you put together this methodology that is just like, yo, this is it. This is the missing ingredient. I've got to share it with the world.
Absolutely.
Awesome. That's awesome. Now, in your interaction with other individuals, I know that we talked privately with respect to some of the things that you were seeing, some of the patterns that were emerging, and we started on that and kind of ended up on a rabbit hole, which was really great. But what are some of the things that you've heard with those who you've come in contact with since you've been on this journey of helping other people grow in their familial relationships?
Absolutely. I've been very touched, Danny, by your story and your mission in bringing this idea of, we have so many warning systems for everything else in our lives, right? Whether it's with medical exams, whether it's with even, and it's kind of funny how we have like this, there's like test anxiety, right? Because I don't want to know. It's at some point, I don't want to know.
Yeah.
Whether, because it could be bad news. But at the same time, if you can imagine, if you only had one test over an entire semester and you didn't have quizzes and other things along the way, you would have no idea at the end whether or not you were on track. And that could probably be one of the worst things in the world, right? Because then it's like, then you've wasted it all. What was I doing? I could have done better. Had I known earlier, I could have course corrected earlier. Right. And so I love this, your passion for that. And you're so well suited to this, right? And fate and God, the universe, whatever is bringing you together with your skill set from education and your personal experiences. And oh my gosh, I know it's just a fire inside of you to be able to get rid of the suffering of the world, the unnecessary suffering in the world, particularly from relationships. Because if you don't have that, what else matters?
Yeah, I've discovered, almost like you, I've discovered that there are few things in life that make people feel like more of a failure
Mm.
than the state of their relationships. Most times when they're feeling, it's not, sometimes it's connected to things like a test or things like that, but
Mhm.
most oftentimes it's connected to a relationship where they have tried and they have just kicked the ball 360 degrees and have yet to score any points. And I know how frustrating that can be. And even the anxiety that comes with the process of analyzing where you are. But one of the things that I say in something that's going to be released very soon is you're going to come under the microscope,
Mm.
whether you like it or not. The question is, do you want a checkup or an autopsy? But you're going to come
Mhm.
under the microscope, and my job is helping people do that in a way that is non-combative, that is efficient, effective, that embraces all of the best. There's just so much wisdom, there's so much knowledge in the world,
So true.
and packaging it in such a way that's both um, guy and girl proof, to just be able to give a snapshot,
Mhm.
5 minutes, give or take. Hey, how are we doing? To check
Mhm.
up. Because I have heard, I don't know if you've heard like as often as I have, I've heard so many people say, just like me, I thought everything was fine.
Absolutely.
I thought we were okay.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, I'm tired of hearing that. I'm tired of hearing it. How often have you heard variations of that
Yes,
in your own
absolutely.
life?
I think it's particularly more so with men,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
kind of dissatisfied women
Mm-hmm.
who aren't feeling fulfilled in their relationship, and it's usually an
Mm-hmm.
emotional thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like, "My wife doesn't love me because I don't make enough money."
Totally.
Like, it's not that's not usually I haven't come
Mm-hmm.
across that.
Mm-hmm.
But I've also come across several men who feel like their relationship is fine.
Mm-hmm.
Coming from a perspective as, "My wife is great and she's meeting my needs. We
Yeah.
have a great life. I don't think there's anything wrong with her. Why does she think there's so much wrong with me?"
Wow. That's it right there. Right there.
And so that can be a very difficult thing, and I was gonna ask you, why do you feel like it is such a great failure on our
Mm.
part? And you were kind of talking about, "'Cause I've tried so much, it's not
Mm-hmm.
that I'm not doing anything,
Yeah.
right? It is important to me. I am putting
Mm-hmm.
energy into this, and
Mm-hmm.
yet not enough,"
Yeah. I
right?
think
Which
it goes back to how we're all individuals, right?
Mhm,
And we have these systems to monitor the health of everything that matters to us.
mhm,
You know, we have mammograms and colonoscopies, dental checkups, we have oil changes, tire rotations, we have income statements, balance sheets. We have, when something matters, we're hyper just vigilant when it
mhm.
comes to measuring the health of it, because we know that our our success is very closely linked to how well that the health of that structure, entity, relationship actually is. Well, I'm now going into the relationship realm, but we need to have a relationship management system. We
Mhm,
got management systems for everything else. And but in addition to that, having the resources lined up when, not if,
mhm.
when we get stuck. I think we all get stuck. And there's nothing worse than not having somebody with a defibrillator. What's the word?
Defibrill No, I can't say it. Everybody knows what we're talking about.
Yes.
A defibrillator.
Def- yes,
Defi
that word right there. But there's so much that can be done once you find out. Like I use the analogy of physical health with cancer. I mean, do you know anybody who survived cancer?
Yeah.
Um, they found out when it was at what stage?
Oh, early. You gotta detect early.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah.
That's it. We
Mhm,
have to detect early because the survival rates are that much higher when we have the early detection. And so when it comes to guys and girls, maybe you can help walk us through this,
Okay.
because typically, like you said, it's the guys that are like, I thought everything was fine.
Mm-hmm.
And, the ladies have long since checked out. They just may have been existing, and then all of a sudden everything hits the fan, and it's just like, where are we? Wait, how did we get here? And I think it's maybe a combination of complacency for guys
Mm-hmm.
who are very logical. It's like, okay, everything's fine. I came home, I ate dinner, I went to bed, I went to work, everything's fine. And we don't necessarily have the emotional connectivity
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't come out of the box. That isn't something that we're just innately skilled in doing, to share how we're doing, to
Mm-hmm.
share, how we're feeling, the progress or lack thereof that we're making. But where else do we see the differences in gender when there's a breakdown? What have you seen on your side?
Um, something that I think is kind of common, and it was definitely the case for me, is that we can, even when a woman may be dissatisfied in her relationship,
Hmm.
it's not as though she is blind to everything
Hmm.
that her husband does for her and does for the family. Okay.
Okay.
But we tend to make this one thing more important than everything else.
Talk to me.
So it's kind of like kind of going back to the education
Hmm.
um, thing. And so I look at my kids now, everything's on their iPads, right? And
Hmm.
everything is totally broken down. Back when I was in school, who knows how your grade happened? Your teacher had some notes
Hmm.
and that was it, right? But now
Hmm.
everything's totally recorded, everything's computerized, and we see, okay, so 20% of your grade is going to be quizzes,
Hmm.
20% of your grade is going to be classwork, and then 60% of your grade is going to be your big assessments,
Hmm.
right? Your finals, your big
Hmm.
papers, or your
Yep.
major grades. And so you have a really good understanding of that. And I think sometimes as women, what we do is we're like 95% of how you're going to be graded is how I feel emotionally connected to you.
Mm. Mm.
Everything
Yeah.
else is 5%.
Wow. Wow.
And it's so
Wow.
interesting because I just spoke with a gentleman over the weekend.
Okay.
Again, I was at this conference, and so it was kind of a
Hmm.
strange thing. Kind of people are pretty open. If you're at a
Yep.
personal development event,
Hmm.
there's a pretty open group of people there. And so I was there without my husband, and so I actually talked to some men about their relationships, which I don't even know how this circumstance would ever happen
It was
normally.
it was divine. It was
Yeah,
perfect.
it was totally divine, but I'm just saying, like, in a normal circumstance social situation, I wouldn't be like, "So, tell me about how your relationship is with your wife." And that they would
Hmm.
be like, say, besides just saying, "Fine," right? Total
Yeah.
stranger.
Yeah.
"Oh, we're fine." Um,
Hmm.
but anyway, one of the things that this gentleman said to me, he says, "I look at all that I'm doing for my
Hmm.
wife, and I think I should be scoring 100.
Mm.
And she's telling me, 'You get 3 points.'"
Wow. Oh my goodness. Woo!
And so
I
that's
know that
totally defeating
whoever's
for him.
watching this, yes, and you are just hitting the nail on the head. That is that right there. I don't know what was it right. That is it. 3 points. He's like, no, that was 100. That wasn't 100.
No, she's
And
like, "That's
it's
3. It is 3
it is
points."
defeating.
Yeah.
It's defeating if that, and it's so defeating for men who are very logical in their, okay, tell me what you want.
Mhm.
Okay, this is what you want, and so we'll go and do that one thing. You wanted flowers. I got the flowers. Here we go. 100 points, right? And she's just like, because there's no emotional connection. And
Well,
without that emotional
yeah.
connection, the woman, from what I understand, there's no feeling of love. And if that feeling, which we can talk about thoughts, words, emotions, but that feeling is so important. The emotional health of the relationship and being able to communicate that
Mhm.
is so key, because the breakdown occurs when one person's feeling something, they haven't effectively communicated it, and the other person is like, we're fine, we're not fine, like, wait, how did we get here? And so you have one dissatisfied and you have one just frustrated to no end, and try making that work.
And it seems impossible.
Yeah,
It seems
does.
impossible. I do want to point something out, especially in the light of kind of what was so critical in my transformation. I'll just call it my transformation. Because when I was talking about that 5% versus 95%, you'll notice I said 95% is how I feel.
Yes.
And within the context that we've been talking about, I am in charge of how I feel.
Say it. Say it.
It sounds a little bit like I'm throwing women under the bus.
Yeah, it does.
It sounds like that, and I'm just like,
hey, but I
oh.
don't mind. I don't mind, Elary. Go ahead. Take it away.
So, but the
Throw
reason
them
that I'm
under the
saying,
bus.
but what you have to understand is there's so much power in that 95%.
Yeah.
I felt, and just going back to how I felt powerless, unappreciated. I couldn't affect my family at all. That is totally how I felt.
Yeah.
Then switching through this transformation, realizing that it is totally up to me how I feel. Now I have influence in my family.
And that's so
now
powerful.
I truly have influence because now I can truly love, because it's no longer manipulation. And that's not to say that I'm great at it, right? I'm working at it. I'm not used to giving unconditional love. I'm just not used to it. It's something I have to think about. And it's something I have to prepare for. And it's something that I have to know, this is who I want to be, going back to my integrity.
Yeah.
This is what I believe is needed. This is what I believe that I'm here for.
That's
and
so good.
Now I have to do it. So, but
That's so
it
good.
sounds defeating because women feel it is 100% how we feel. Because I know I was there, right?
If I can jump in and give the guy perspective. So from the standpoint of a man, we're looking at a female, a woman, and we're like, okay, your feelings, come on. Like they're not a deity. They don't get to dictate the success of, like, why would you allow something as, temperamental as feelings to dictate how well we're doing? And so it's hard for a guy to grasp and understand that, because we're a little more linear in our thinking. It's just like, okay, if I put this quarter in the machine, I'll get the bubble gum back. And it kind of goes back into what you're saying about manipulation versus love, which is important to realize. But I don't know. It's hard for guys to understand how powerful a woman's emotions are. And we see how it shifts the entire direction of the relationship. But we don't know. Guys seem powerless. They feel powerless. They don't know that what you verbalize can be the realization for their significant others. And they also don't know how to hold on to their power, to, regardless of what's happening over there, to be masters of your imminent domain over here. And so I don't know, it's just really, it's really powerful to hear your perspective and how you're saying that as a female, 95% of you have the power in order to really take control of 95% of the way that you feel. That just makes me, as a man, like, there's hope. Guys, there's hope. There's hope for us.
Yeah.
If we can understand that we're not helpless, that we're not hopeless, we're not at the mercy of the roller coaster of emotions. So thank you for sharing. That was powerful.
Well, and what's so interesting too, I like I said, I spoke with a few gentlemen over the weekend, and one gentleman was kind of still, I wouldn't say still in crisis. He shared with me. He said, we've been on the brink of divorce about 2 times, and right now we seem like we're in a pretty good place. But he doesn't see any correlation between his marital efforts and the health of their relationship.
Yeah.
He says, I feel like I'm always the same. I feel like I'm super constant. I'm always being super nice. I feel like I'm always doing the right stuff. And then she's like this.
And
like we said.
Yeah.
Right. And it was very interesting. So that was kind of, and I have to be honest, Annie, it was like I was speaking to my husband.
Wow.
Everything that was coming out of his mouth was things that have come out of my husband's mouth. And so I totally understood it. And so I really identify with his wife. as well, because I'm like, I have 100% been there, and I know exactly what she's saying, because she's like, she says that we don't emotionally connect, and I don't know how. I have no idea what she's talking about. Sometimes she feels like we're emotionally connected. Other times she doesn't. I feel like I'm doing the same thing the whole time.
Come on. And so, Elary, we're coming on the hour mark.
I know, so true.
What I'm excited about is this is the first of many conversations, and we're going to be inviting a select group of people to also partner with us in a more intimate setting for something called the M Squad, couples fighting together for love that lasts forever. Because love should last a lifetime, and it can. It won't be happily ever after, but it can grow. Every relationship always has room to grow. Coach Elary, give us some parting words that could be gasoline in the tank of someone who is trying to go a little bit further but doesn't know if they have it in them.
Okay, so this is what I have to say, is you can get out of pain now. You can get out of suffering now. It really is that fast. It doesn't mean the problems are going to go away. It doesn't mean that everything's perfect. But when we talk about having hope, which is, show me again. Hold on, pain ending. Yes?
Yeah, pain ends.
Pain ends. Okay, yeah, sorry, my face, blah, blah, blah. So I'm saying you can get out of that pain, and you get enough breathing space so then you can move forward. You can do that no matter where you are.
Yeah. That's beautiful. You can, and we will help you.
Yes.
Borrow our hope.
Yes.
Because everything that you're struggling with, we both have seen people overcome and be stronger and have a more resilient and thriving experience. You don't have to go through it. You can grow through it.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Grow in Love show. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single podcast. And remember, every relationship always has room to grow.